Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to our brand new series, Do the Work Wednesday. So, we're taking a little break from the relationship talk today. And we're going to go into a little bit more about why it's very important for, as a man, to do the work on yourself on the inside, which in turn allows you to do the work on the outside and get the results you want. I think Joe and I were talking this week, and kind of one of the issues we see in the space is that people spend so much time focusing on how to get girls, get women, all that stuff, and they never like work on themselves. And so no matter how hard they try on the outside, they can never actually get really get the results they want. So today we're really going to be diving in onto why it's important and how to start getting some of that work done on the inner, so you can have some of the work on the outer kind of manifest. So Joe, great to see you again, brother. Looking forward to this talk.
Always a pleasure.
And awesome. Why don't you take us away? So, this is a topic you kind of mentioned that you wanted to speak more of. So, what does that mean to you about a man doing the work?
Um, well, we talked about this in a call the other day, and it's not that relationships with women aren't important in your life, in a man's life, but I don't want to get so focused on the woman side, and I don't want to frame it as you do X, Y, and Z so you can get women, and so you can get the woman that you truly desire and be in the relationship you want to be in. Or if you want to just play the field to be a player, like do this, with that being the motivating factor, that being the end, the mean. Um, so having women in your life is part of the whole picture of what it is to be a man. There's other components that matter. There's other components that need attention, that need work before that becomes a priority. And the whole point is when you take care of these other facets of life, that comes a lot easier, and you're in a better position to maintain and build in that department, in the dating department. Look, you're going to be a fully integrated, successful man. There's a lot of different angles that it has to be approached from.
Mm-hmm.
And dealing with women is absolutely one of them. And it's a skill that's learned over time. I know I've said this before here and other places, that as a man, you're not born a man. You earn that. You earn that title of being a man and being successful. That's all an earned result over time. Women are born women. They're born valuable. It's their responsibility to stay valued, to keep their value, their chastity, the chastity, the femininity, not getting fat and disgusting, not sleeping with every fucking dick that passes her, and saying yes to every guy, being the supporting, encouraging role in the relationship, the opposite of the man, and living according to that. So they built with that value. As a man, you're born nothing. I mean, you're human. I mean, you get that fundamental respect. But anything you get and attain and acquire over the years, it's because you've done the necessary work. You've put the work in. It's called the burden of performance for men. And people say this is one of the things you have to do. And this is one of the things you get to do. This is one of the things afforded to you as a man, is to have a life full of experience, accomplishments, failure to learn from. And that shows up in all areas of life. It's physically, monetarily, the quality of woman that you attract and end up with. So, and this all depends on what you built over the years. Going into your 20s, and look, I know a lot of people get girlfriends and all, but you're not very valuable to a hot 20-year-old or a hot 18-year-old just starting out. You're not even on their radar at that point in life. And that's okay. That's exactly how it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
But it's your job to use your 20s to build all these quality characteristics and all these things that looks like a well-integrated, successful man, ready to lead a family, lead a relationship, lead a business, organize, grow and earn and keep and grow money. Having a solid body, being physically well put together, mentally being stable and strong, and the ability to solve problems, emotionally mature and stable, to where you can deal with things that come your way without freaking out or panicking, and keeping you calm, being centered. These are things that happen that you learn through experience only. There's no other way you can learn these things other than going through them and taking the necessary step by step by step. And so you go through these years of learning and development is where you build the necessary grit, the knowledge, you get the necessary repetitions to be able to have an accomplished life. What success looks like that's relative. That may look different for different people. Some people's success is a family with 3 kids and 2 people in the household working, but you have enough for savings and the kids are good and smart and your wife is nice, she stays fit, you stay fit. And some people's success looks like millions of dollars in the bank and building businesses and being a entrepreneurial genius, and building and forming businesses and buying out other businesses, and being able to have multiple women. And so success is defined by the individual. But loosely, success can be defined as who you are as a man. Are you able to do these things? Was it you that did the necessary work and got the end result of what you wanted? And that having women in your life, quality women to grow alongside of, to have alongside and invite into your life, having that option is a byproduct of all the other work you do. Is all the work that you put in, all the self-work.
Yeah, question for you, Joe. Earlier you mentioned that like a lot of 20-year-olds are probably not in a place to be able to give in that relationship. It seems like all of my friends from high school and college, most of them have like a wife or a girlfriend, and they're all in their 20s. So how does that work? And I was always confused. I was like, why? Like I was 20 and I was like, why am I not, having this success that they are? Obviously I see now from my own journey, it's been because you're right. I didn't have any value to give. So what is it that makes like a 20-year-old guy able to have a relationship and go through that whole
I'm not saying you can't, but it's going to be a learning experience and you're going to grow it. And there's nothing wrong with having somebody to grow alongside of and do the work with. But that's rare. From how you are at 18, entering the world as, the beginnings of a man, a young man, and by the time you're 30, you're going to have you should have a whole different perspective of life and what that means. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't be the same person at 30 that you were 18. You should be a lot more complex, refined, knowledgeable, wiser, and have certain markers hit, as far as at least having a hold on what it means to earn and manage money, what it means to attract and maintain a woman in your life. Because I'll tell you, it's having women in your life that's a skill. That's a learned skill. And you can have a woman in your life and you work hard for all these years. And if you don't know how to manage that, you lose everything behind a bad relationship. And it's so important that you have a healthy place, a healthy perspective of what you expect and what that looks like, and be able to clearly define that so that you don't end up in a really toxic situation 20 years later with kids with this woman because you overlooked some red flags or you just didn't even know what to look for. You thinking that's normal. Some of the toxic and dysfunctional behavior, that's normal because I've seen it growing up, or I've seen it in other relationships, and I've seen other people do it. Because if you're surrounded by dysfunction, you're not going to think it's abnormal.
Yeah, right.
And you're going to, your life is going to naturally, organically veer into that realm, and that's what's going to show up in your life. But if you're with a girl at 18, like, she's not going to be the same person. And I hate to be the one to parrot this about the modern women, but these times are different than they used to be. The values have changed, not for the better. Women are encouraged to go be boss babes, and they encouraged to go explore their sexuality with multiple different men, to go put a career before family and freeze your eggs. Don't worry, you can come back to that after you've accomplished your PhD and you're a CEO. And we're just beginning to see the outcome of that thinking and that wave of feminism, and what damage that has done to society at large. And on the opposite end of that is what they're telling men to do and be. Be a stay-at-home dad. Express how you feel. They encourage men not to go date and sleep around. Like, they flipping the script,
Yeah.
It's I know a lot of people who, fell for the whole Disney storybook romance, 80s, what do they call it? Power ballad love song about, oh, you're the only one for me. And, they stick it out. They build a family with this person. They get along. They earn their keep. They become successful in some degree. And the marriage dissolves. The woman takes everything, takes the kids, and you got to start from ground zero. That's devastating. And I know people personally who've, what is the word, self-deleted behind that shit. And I know people who've had to rebuild. And I know I went through an ugly divorce as a kid from my parents.
Okay.
And I've seen firsthand what happens to a man after divorce in family court.
Yeah.
The woman has a whim. Like, I don't want this anymore. And how easily that can just be taken away, and you be thrown to the wayside. You can't see your kids. You're taking money. You got to pay for these kids. You got to leave your house. There's a lot of it that's very destructive for a man's lifespan. And I've seen men at their own peril repeat that more than once. I mean, that's insanity.
Yeah, man.
So,
one of my favorite movies growing up was, I'm going to out myself here a little bit. Two favorite movies was Mulan and that's Little Mermaid. It was a great movie. And the message also was that, you even if you were completely incompatible with someone, you can make it work. I mean, look at the Little Mermaid. Like, she was a freaking different species and she marries Prince Charming. And Mulan is another, still great movie. Like, the music in there is fantastic. She's basically, she enters the army and she basically defeats the Han. She defeats Genghis Khan single-handedly, and then marries the the actual prince or the general, and they fall in love, right? And it's absolutely crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I fell for it big time. I know all my friends, we've all fallen for it because we're just like,
I did.
You fell for it too. Yep. It's like, you be the white knight, and chicks don't really like the white knight. They find it kind of repulsive.
You're the guy the white knight is the guy that the women, after they've been run through, and now they realize they can't attain the guy they were going after when they were 18. Now they're 30. Life's not looking too good. Men don't want to commit. And now she's like, well, let me go back. These group of men are the guys that stay friends with her through all that. Oh, I would treat you so much better. I don't know why you date jerks like that. Da-da. I'm here whenever you need me. Da-da-da. With the thinking, it's just this nice guy mentality, the nice guy. And that's the guy she circles back after she realizes, like, oh, shit, nobody wants me. Or not the guys that I want. Let me go see what Dickface is up to. I bet you he'll take me back. Sure enough, he's like, yes, I stuck it out and I waited and she returned to me. If you love her, set her free and she'll come back. No. That's not the way it is. She's run out of options, and she realizes, she's come to the realization, the epiphany phase, that's what it's called, the epiphany. She has a sudden epiphany, like, oh shit, I'm not getting any younger. I don't have kids. these men aren't committing. I don't want to live the rest of my life lonely. But I've lost some of my value over the years. Now I got to go and find somebody who will adhere to that. I just heard a story yesterday that I'm not going to get too deep. And, this chick had a crazy history. And, she dealt with some drugs, and she wound up being homeless and would have sex with drug dealers and stuff in exchange for drugs. She did this for years. And she got out of that a few years later. She met this guy and told him he had to wait for them to get married to have sex, that she has found Jesus. Now he's got to wait. And he did. He fell for that shit. And how does that even make sense? So for $10 worth of drugs, you can bang her out. But this guy who's willing to give his life to her and share and spend his life with her has to wait to touch her. That signals so many fucked up things. And, but that's these guys' mentality. They've been programmed too. They've been programmed by the same, conditioning and societal conditioning by, like, you even hear it in churches now, like wife up the single mom, and, it's your duty as a man to take care of her offspring from another man. And it's
your duty to be a cuck. Go for it, man.
Yeah. Forget her past. And, here's the thing. We judge value based on past. Women judge value based on future. Mm-hmm. And if you're not put together and have a healthy understanding of what a quality, healthy, long-term relationship looks like, and have yourself in a position to lead that and accept nothing less, that's what you're going to wind up with. And nowadays, it's just more and more common where you see this kind of behavior from women and behavior from men. And it's failing society horribly. Horribly.
Yeah. Buddy Derek and I, who's been on this channel before, we talked about this the other day. He's 32, so we're about the same age. We're both very curious to see what happens in 10 years, where, all these girls that have been kind of running around all over Instagram, once they hit that point where they're like, oh, this was a big mistake. And we're actually looking at seeing the Gen Zers. A lot of them are actually starting to behave a bit better because they're seeing how actually messed up this all is from our generation. And
that's why I said you're seeing the ending of that wave of feminism that has swept through the last 2-3 decades. And you're starting to see the women that bought into that shit or telling these young ladies, like, don't listen. It's not true. You're not going to be happy if you have a PhD and you're a boss bitch at 40. It's lonely. It's impossible to date. No men want me. And I'm lonely and I'm miserable now because I didn't have kids. Like, my biological calling was to be a mother and bear children. And it's they go against that because of the narrative. And women are a lot more easily to be swayed and convinced and tricked, bamboozled than men.
Right.
So you have these, just like this whole movement, like the red pill thing has come out, and there's a lot of young men waking up. Mm-hmm. And especially guys my age. I didn't come across this until I was like 40.
Okay.
It's like, holy shit. Talk about being smacked in the face with the brick of reality. God damn. I had it wrong all along. And this is what moved me to get on the internet and start telling people ahead of time this is my contribution back to men, and especially the younger guys who are experiencing this, because the system is not letting up on pushing this narrative. They're like full speed ahead, guns are blazing. But people are starting to wake up too. That includes men and women.
Yes.
that they're starting to wake up and see this isn't right. Something's off. Like this is fucked up. Why is over 70% of women in society on medication for depression, anxiety? Why are men committing suicide left and right? And well, people are becoming more perpetually miserable people, self-medicating, medicating. I've dated women from other countries, and one of the common threads that we talk about this culture is they've never seen so many advertisements for medication streamed on network television, pushing people on medication.
Damn.
They give you the disease and sell you the cure type of thing, And like that's off. That's way out of balance.
Yeah.
And you can just feel the vibe in certain places of the tension and the imbalance of what's happened in the end result of this. Now, at the same time, people are, starting to come around and realize that they've been sold a bag of shit.
Yeah.
And because deep down, like when I started this transformation after a divorce and all, looking into this and really researching, and I've told you this before, my journey started with a content creator called Corey Wayne. Very popular. Yeah.
Did you read the book 10 to 15 times?
I did.
Nice. Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
More than 15. And every now and then I just go back to it because some of the stuff I don't absolutely agree with, but he's got the gist of it. Mm-hmm. And he's got the right idea. But that just launched me into like a 2-year like consuming all of this information I could find about this stuff from content creators. Rollo Tomasi's book, The Rational Male, changed my life. And as I was reading through that book, it's like every page would be like, what the fuck? I knew it. Because there's things that are embedded in us as men that we fight and go against the grain. And that's where anxiety, depression, erectile dysfunction, suicide, this is where all these things stem from, is not being congruent with who we truly are. But there's nobody out there, well, now there is, telling you that it's wrong and that gut feeling, that intuition you have is right. And this is why you're a little fucked up. This is why you will sit in your mom's basement jerking off to porn all day and be too afraid to go up and talk to a girl.
Right.
Yeah, so this is all the stuff they give us. They give us this medication. They give you free porn. Like, think about it. Porn is the easiest thing in the world to consume. You don't have to do anything. You literally go on your phone and you could just search the word porn and you will immediately get thousands of results to plug you straight into that. You don't have to lift a finger. Well, yeah, you do have to lift a finger, but that's it.
The lotion, right?
Yeah, finger in the lotion, unless you're fucking dry pumping. But think about how hard it is to find some unbiased truth about what it means to build value in this lifetime as a man. And that shit's demonized. Look at the people who promote this stuff, and they're censored, they're demonized, they call it misogynist, toxic masculinity, all these catchphrases they have to turn people off from seeking this. And
I think porn's a good one you're talking about, man. So I'm glad you bring that up. And on this channel for Sobriety University, we've talked a lot about quitting porn. Not too much because it does get demonetized, but yeah, man, I definitely, I grew up on that thing. So as soon as I hit age 12 or whatever, and the internet came around, I was on that. And what it taught me was that I don't have to do any work to get sexual gratification. And when I finally did quit, it's been over 5 years now. It took a while because my brain had been just so warped around, okay, if I don't need to go out and actually date. I can just literally do absolutely nothing and get what people in the past before internet was around, maybe they'd spend their whole lives and get maybe 2 sexual interactions sometimes. Because there wasn't also this information about, how to date and all that stuff. The porn is so toxic. And I just remember just having so much anxiety. Like I couldn't look women in the eyes. Just so much shame. And it wasn't even, it wasn't even conscious too. It was just so embedded in like who I was. So I think that's a great, first place to start to do the work is to get off the porn.
Absolutely.
Get rid of that stuff. There's blockers, there's support groups where you can learn about how to quit. There's so many resources now. And just, I think we're seeing the dangers of it. It's such an oxytocin hit. It's like taking a heroin shot of oxytocin. And you can find any woman you want, and the worst part, and this is what I've seen when I've gone to support groups, is it leads people down a really dark path because they get desensitized to it. So they start, like a lot of people are like facing legal stuff because they just couldn't stick to the PG. They had to go as R-rated as possible, and they got caught. And now they're like facing the rest of their life in prison.
Well, that's a whole nother pedophilia. Those people need to be exterminated. There's no help for that. That's just my firm stance on that. If you get off on seeing little kids being violated, in my opinion, you don't deserve to live. And that's another thing with modern technology and modern medicine and, politics and all this bullshit. And the system is even promoting that, sexualizing little kids. Think about that. How fucking sick is that?
Bro,
just like they've taken the steps to, subtly over a period of decades to change a dynamic of men and women with the true meaning of masculinity and femininity is, they're starting that now to desensitize little children. They go into kindergarten classes and they have parents that are letting these perverts come in and be in front of it. Like, so they dress it up like, it's a fun thing, like Barney. Like we're gonna give you this drag queen dressed up and spreading his legs and doing filthy things, but look, it's fun. And so they like through association, they slowly desensitizing little children to accept being sexual objects. Think about that. That's the end of fucking times, dude. That's a bad sign of where we are in society, and that there's even this much of a support for a movement for that. And
my sponsor, he's for codependency. He's gay, right? So he doesn't care about women at all. And he was telling me recently that there was like this parade, like this New Year's parade, Chinese. I can't remember where it was. It was in the summer though, so it wasn't New Year's. But he was saying he's like, dude, there was this float that went by, and it was just like this very overweight lady, just like in this like tight ass lingerie, and there was like a crap ton of little girls behind her, and they were all like twerking and stuff. And he was just like, that was disgusting, dude. Like what the what the fuck? Why are they doing that? And I'm just like, yeah, dude, it's so messed up, and it's very westernized. So a point you mentioned earlier is that I'm in Mexico City here, and it's a lot more traditional. It's still like a little bit of the West is starting to infiltrate for sure, but there's still some values. And so I was at the mall. I do cold approach. That's how I do my dating. And I went up to this actually just awesome chick, and we just started talking about like I told her, she's like, "Where are you from?" Like USA. She's like, "Why'd you come here?" And I'm like, "Because the USA is crazy." And she's like, "Yeah, I know." And she's like, "This whole and she brought it up. She's like, this whole feminism thing, she was like in her mid-20s, and she's like, "Yeah, I don't want to be working until I'm 30 and then lose my opportunity." She literally said that. She's like, "Yeah, I want kids and I want to, have a family." So I see it like she has a career. She's like, "Yeah, it's not really important to me." I was just like, dude, I like this girl. She probably had a boyfriend, probably because she's so based. But yeah, we just had a great talk and connection. I'm just like, okay, this chick gets it.
Well, in other cultures where, more traditional cultures that have been untouched by westernization, by Americanization, this makes zero sense to anybody. The women think this is absolutely insane. That makes sense to people here. Like, y'all really allow that shit? Like, y'all openly promote that madness? That's insane. And with the porn, so the porn is a weapon against men to keep them subdued. Because number one, what it does is sets this unrealistic expectation of sex. I'm not saying you can't have dirty, kinky sex, and
right,
because Lord knows I like to, but it's unrealistic. And like the way it comes about, and the way it, then the next thing the man sees, he's getting off on watching another man pleasure the woman. What is that? Tell me.
Oh, it's voyeurism.
It's cuckoldry is what that is. So you're raising a whole generation of cucks that they've so many times they've pleasured themselves to watching another chick get reamed out by another dude, and they're getting off to that. Every time they do that, they slowly rewiring their internal operation system, and that's literally brain damaging. And so a key word that you mentioned is, and every time you do it, there's shame attached to it. So you feel shameful for partaking in such disgust that you do it over and over and over, and it gets to a point where you don't really like yourself. So you get around other people, and you got this mentality like, oh shit, everybody knows I look at porn, I'm dirty, I'm no good. So you keep your head down. You can't make eye contact. You're squeamish about going up to women because you've already modeled her as being sexed out by another guy. Like, it just totally fucking ruins you. And there's constant little cheap dopamine hits. And that's another thing this system does, is give you every opportunity in the world to get a quick hit. Dopamine. Yeah. Smoke some weed, drink some beer, look at some porn, buy something that you can get sent straight to your house. Get rich quick, all these quick and easy accessibility to dopamines. It's not reality. Dopamine, that feel good is earned, and it's not earned instantly. It's a delay. It's a delayed reward where you work and work and work and work. You do the things necessary, take the steps, take the actions. Then the reward comes. That's what healthy dopamine. That's where healthy self-esteem and self-respect and self-love comes from. Is doing the work with no immediate result and sticking to the process and grinding it out. So you build grit, you build wisdom, you build knowledge, you build experience over time. And that goes back to the 18-year-old. And nowadays, it's not only is it, prevalent, it's being supported and seen more and more in households with the reversal of the role reversal in homes, where the woman's the boss and the guy's just a fumbling moron. And think about years ago in the 90s what the television shows look like. Like, did you ever see a guy who was, a centered, strong guy who led his family? And no, you get this bitchy, bitter wife, the husband, like Everybody Loves Raymond.
I was just thinking that. That's exactly what I was thinking.
This guy can't do anything right. He's always begging for sex. She's always fixing his fuck ups. He's dope. He's the dope, and everybody laughs, and the applause comes on, and he finally does a million things to get to have sex with, and she's like, "Oh, okay, Ray, get it over with." And she's like, "What the fuck is that?"
Poor Ray.
Poor Ray. Poor him. Fuck him. He got what he deserved.
Raymond, a couple other shows too. King of Queens.
Every show, King of Queens, yeah.
And he had moments of masculinity, Doug, for sure. But he was overweight, and he got the most beautiful girl probably in all of Queens. And as the season went on, as the series went on, she gained a ton of weight, just like in her life too. Mm-hmm. And then the show just became her just reaming him all the time. Just every episode was how he was just a moron. And like, Jesus Christ.
That's called predictive programming. So yeah, what does it show? A woman who constantly berates her husband, disrespects him in front of the kids, always cleaning up his mess, leading the fucking family. Like, what kind of message does that send? And they have a generation of people who grew up watching that and thinking, I'm Ray Romano. I'm the king of Queens. And I'm just a dumbass, and she's my better half. And she wears a shirt that says I'm with stupid, and he wears a shirt that says that's my better half. You know what I mean? That's the vibe. That's the energy. And
so crazy.
It couldn't be so far from the truth. And I think it's really starting to show itself in society. That we have 2 generations now of lost men and women. But good luck as a man trying to find somewhere to get some guidance. And this is why I do what I do. And there's another part of my story that really propelled me into the space. We're not going to get into that tonight. And so back to the title of the show, the doing the work. This is why you do the work. This is why you consume this content and listen to guys like me and like you and other, prominent thought leaders, and be selective, because they got frauds and scammers in here too. I've seen it. I've met these people that just are there to get the money, who take the stage pictures with a Ferrari, and they don't have a pot to piss in the winter, that don't get chicks or pay for their pussy. And they're out there leading people, just giving them terrible information as to how to do that. And what I see, thankfully, is they usually don't last long, but still, they're out there long enough for somebody to see this.
Yeah.
So now you got to go unfuck all the damage these guys are doing, as well as what's already been done.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, and look, the reason I have this to talk about and have the amount of information and guidance I am able to offer is because I've been down the other way. I've been down the wrong road, and I've done it. And, up to a certain point, it's not your fault that some of these things were instilled in you, and this is your guiding system. You're programmed to do X, Y, Z. But at some point, as soon as you have an awareness of something that is not in alignment, it's your responsibility to correct it immediately. And that's what I did as things came along. And I'll tell you, my life has changed tenfold. I'm as a man. Now, I've always had these inherent traits, some things that have been with me since I can remember. I did have a short time where my dad was home, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, my dad was a provider. And, he wasn't perfect. And I did fortunately have some strong, masculine OG type guys in my life that I got to have some experience with, enough to where I could look back and remember the things they said and the way they were. Like my grandpa, for instance, World War II veteran, fucking killer. I didn't know about this until I was like 16 or 17. And he was in a World War II. He fought in the Pacific. And he deployed for 2 years straight at war. Like, could you even imagine that? 19 years old, out killing for 2 years. Seeing people die, seeing people get maimed and killed, and seeing the worst of humanity has to offer. And, coming back and having to reacclimate to society and civilization. And he said he went 2 years without seeing a white woman. That was his words. All native women in the Solomon Islands. And he went 2 years just completely unplugged from society and completely entrenched in survival. Survival by any means, just the rawest form, primal survival. And we used to have our talks, and he dropped little subtle hints now and then, but I didn't know what he was saying or why he was saying it. And then as I got a little older, he became more direct. And I remember one time when I was, he died right after my wife got pregnant with my son. Matter of fact, I told him at the nursing home on his birthday, and he died that night. I told him that she was pregnant. It's just kind of weird that it happened. he expired and here my son was being conceived. That's a pretty special moment for me. And that's something he said years before that when I'll tell you how it started. Saving Private Ryan, you're familiar?
Beautiful movie.
Well, I used to, even in my party years, I would take one day out of a week. Typically, it was one day out of the week. Sometimes it was 3 times a month. And I would go eat dinner with them. We'd usually play cards or watch a movie or something, just to spend time with my grandparents because I grew up really close to them. And one night I went over there to surprise him because I'd learned that he was in World War II. And I didn't even know about the European campaign and the Pacific campaign. I wasn't even well versed in what I thought World War II meant Hitler, right? And so I brought the movie. I went to Blockbuster Video, rented Saving Private Ryan, and I thought we'd all sit down and watch it together, and he could, So I brought it, and I said, "Look, I got a surprise." We ate dinner, and I broke out the VHS tape. He said, "I don't want to see that." So I was there. There's nothing about that I want to see. I was like, "What do you mean?" I said, it's a movie. It's supposed to be historically accurate, and the depiction is very realistic. He's like, "I don't need realism." He said, "It's not realer than what I was doing. I can promise you that."
Wow.
And he didn't want anything to do with it. And I was shocked. I was like, "Really?" Because I didn't even understand how someone could have been deeply affected by that. And, I didn't know about PTSD and all that. I thought they were just too old, so they slept in separate beds. They slept in separate beds because he'd waken up on several occasions trying to kill my grandmother, from a nightmare. And that night is when he started telling me about his journey through the war and the things that he'd done and things that he'd seen. And he'd break down and cry multiple times, like just not sobbing, but, he'd stop, put his head down. You could see him moving like that, wipe his eyes, collect himself, and start speaking again. And so through that experience is where we really bonded. Like me and him got like this. And we were talking, and I was just getting married. I just proposed. And I went over there to tell him. It's like, good. And I was saying something. And my grandma was standing right there, and he goes, "Well, it's not natural for men to have just one woman." My grandma didn't say shit. He said, we're men. We're supposed to go out there and spread our seed and conquer. He said, it doesn't work like that for women. My grandma didn't say a word. And then she just kept on tooling in the kitchen like she was doing. He didn't lower his voice or nothing. He said that shit is a matter of fact. Mm-hmm. And then he said, and he didn't know how to articulate as well as we understand it now and can express what that means. As far as he used the words, "You're the king of the castle. You run your family. Like you're the guy they answer to." And, we talked a little bit about that. So luckily, even through my blue-pilled years, I had those kind of conversations and those moments to turn back to. And I remember one time, I forgot what it was, but he hit the nail on the head looking back about, I forgot what the fucking thing was exactly, but he said something along the lines of, "She don't want that." Like being, I think it was talking about being understood or something. He goes, "She don't want that. She don't need to be understood. She needs to be led." He said it that simple. Went back to doing whatever he was doing. So it was those little moments, those little conversations, and a few other people I've had cross paths with in my life that I look back now and see it was just a part of my journey that have really rung true in the present, and what they were trying to tell me and what they were trying to convey and what it meant and how valuable that was to me. You got to think of how many young men never have that contact or that experience with this type of fucking traditional, old school, hard ass men. So,
that's powerful, man.
Yeah, and that contributed to me being here and being in this space and being a content creator and a thought leader in this space to help guide young men, older men. I didn't learn about the shit till I was 40. And I knew something was off the whole way through.
Right. I was the same. My dad was very masculine in our family. He did the work. You know, my mom stayed at home and she had like a job she'd go to a couple times a week. It's the same thing. Like once I got into the real world and all my programming was coming out, I had that reference point. So I knew something, like I knew there was another way and I wasn't doing it. I was still being told though that the way I was doing it was actually the better way, being soft and open, and those are still qualities I have, and I think it's a feature, not a bug. But I'm learning how to hone those in a more masculine way. But when I was younger and I was doing drugs and I was partying, I was not a leader. So I kept thinking that, okay, I can keep doing this because society is telling me that it's a-okay. And so I thank my dad for being who he was. He was very tough and he didn't show much affection. He does more now as he's getting older, because I think some of the testosterone's wearing off, and he's just more of a kind of just he's just like dad now. Before it was like, oh shit, dad's home. Like, let's freaking buckle up.
What's wrong with that? That's what the guy does. And I remember growing up like that. My dad came home, he straightened the fuck up. And there used to be in a time when it would be, wait till your dad gets home. Like, oh shit, I messed up. And I'd start right then and there. That was a signal for me to tighten up. Nicholas, dude, I remember Nicholas. Good, man. Good to hear. I don't want to get derailed from what we're talking about. We'll go back. This is actually a client of mine, Nicholas Lind. And I'm not going to get into his personal story, but it sounds like he's come a long way.
Oh, that's awesome.
You're welcome.
And guys, all it can take is one session to completely change your trajectory. So do not be afraid to reach out to Joe or myself for advice on addiction for me, and dating, relationships, becoming more of who you are as a man. I know I always invest in a coach when I'm starting something new, and they've always been the best investments. My roommate, Jaron, who you've seen a lot on this channel, I met him through booking a coaching call for him. And now we're next door, and now we're living together. So not saying that's a trajectory, you're going to hit up Joe and then you guys are going to be roommates, but you just never know what amazing things can happen from spending a few dollars to kind of work on yourself.
Look, you cannot stamp a value on investing in yourself through this route. I have coaches and mentors for every area of life. And that's one common theme you see among any successful people, any ambitious men, any people who are making things happen in life. They always have somebody higher up as a mentor. I have a mentor for, I'm a contractor. I own a construction company. I still use a guy that I talk to regularly to talk about the job situation, the advice, the client, a certain something I may come across that I'm not familiar with. We talk business, we talk future projections. Like, we even share ideas about having an agreement to sign in the beginning. Like, we formulated this shit, I can't think of the word. It's like a disclaimer, maybe, that you sign in the beginning, like stating some rules that if we're going to work together, here's some of the things that are going to be adhered to, and get them to sign it. Like, we did that. So, and it's through his guidance. He was there from day one as why. And guess what? When I pull him into something on a project, he gets a cut. He don't work for free. He's got value to bring. And not only but what I'm giving him, say it's usually like 3%. But guess what I earn off of spending that 3% on him? Guess the value that brings to me for the rest of the time I'm doing this. You can't even count it, right?
Yeah.
I have a guy I work with for organization, sort of like a life coach, just to be able to run some things through. He's got a PhD. He's, red-pilled. He has a family. Like, he's got all the things that I can trust what he's saying, and he adheres to whatever he's telling me. So he helps me with organization. He's got a PhD in psychology. So we talk about some of those things, and
Nice.
he allows me to reframe and recategorize the meaning of things, the direction, the importance, it's different things in organization, most of all, because that's something I've always been a challenge for me. That's getting better, but being organized and knowing what I'm doing from day to day to day and how much that's able to optimize my whole life experience. I have my dear friend, you may or may not know him, MLD, Jonathan from In Modern Life Dating.
Yeah.
I was his first client.
No way.
His very first paying client.
Wow.
And
holy shit.
Through the years, we have formed such a strong bond and friendship. Let me tell you something about that guy. That is one of the most genuine people I've ever met in my life. This dude is kind, compassionate. I know he talks his shit and does his thing, and that's his gig. But that guy cares more about the people that he deals with day in and day out and who in his programs. He's actually out there touching men's lives and affecting them in a positive way, because he has thousands and thousands of clients now to attest to that. And so my point is, but guess what it cost? It was an investment I had to make.
Yeah.
And it paid off. The dividends, like I can never put a price on that, how much that was worth for me and the value it brought to my life. And he's the one who got me started doing this.
Okay.
On YouTube. He said, you need to make a channel.
Dude, that's crazy.
So I did. And that's another thing. You're going to hire somebody. Listen. Because I've wasted mine on other people's times. But so this is why I charge. And my rate is low compared to
those guys. You're not $5,000 a session. Like some it's like, and the thing is, like, that's, I think, the best first tip to level up and do the work, because these people that you hire for coaching or, get as a sponsor or mentor, some people will do it for free too. If you really connect with someone, that's what recovery is great about, is because they have sponsorship, which is, you don't pay for it. All you do is, you give back your time and you listen, you learn. They're going to help you be able to do the work a lot faster. Like, you're going to save years, because they're going to tell you everything that they did wrong, so you don't have to. And that's like the greatest lesson I've learned. I'm like, oh, so if I don't do this like this, I don't have to have this result. Dude, that's value. Like, that's all the value I need. So many of the things I've done with dating, with YouTube, is just me not doing certain things.
Well, think about sponsorship and recovery. There's an exchange of value there, but that goes into you're giving that away to keep it. And it says it in the 12 steps. Carry this message to other alcoholics. That's you doing all this step work and all this service work to get to that point solely so you can give back. But that's how you keep it.
Right.
But I don't do free stuff. I try that. It's a time waster. If I don't put a price and value on my time and my knowledge and information, you're not going to respect it. I've been through it with personal training, contracting. When I first started out, I'll do a lot of shit at this huge discount for free, trying to be helpful. They don't respect it. It has no value to them. So I'm doing these people a favor about charging them, because when you invest financially into something, you're more prone to stick. You're more apt to see the process through and actually do the work required. Because the stuff I tell people to do, the work, the process is not easy. Nope. So once I tell people, here, we got some difficult work to do. Oh, well, then the excuses come and they disappear.
Yeah.
And if you've invested something valuable to you into that process, you're going to see to it that you honor that investment.
Yep.
And look, and this is what I tell people. You in a profession or even just a job, like, do you ever go into work and tell the boss, hey, this week's on me. Don't worry about paying me. I've went and earned a degree, or I've earned experience in whatever particular job I'm doing. And but yeah, I'm working for free this week. No, that would be insane, right? So why the fuck would I be expected to do any less? And this is years and years and years of my life, and years of working at this process and having seen both sides of it, and having failed and having the success. So I know exactly. I can take you through the minefield.
Yeah.
And
help you dodge those mines, man. I mean, that's such a big part of it.
But there's another part. You got to do the work. You got to do exactly what I tell you, no questions asked. Mm-hmm. And I'll run into people who like, yeah, well, what if I do this? And maybe it's this. I'm like, look, now's not the time for you to be talking. This is where you need to listen, take notes, because there's going to be some things that I'm expect you to do, like sort of like assignments and work outside of our conversations. And this is another thing I tell him, Nicholas can tell you. The first introductory session we have, one of the first things I mentioned in this conversation, after I ask him, what is your goal? What are you trying to accomplish here? Is I tell them, here's a little bit about me. I've been through this, done this, done this, done this. Here's the results I got. And I'm not here to keep you around for years.
Bro.
I'm here to put you on a path, see you through a certain point of the process, show you the work, give you the process, lay it out, work with you hand in hand, week by week for a short amount of time.
Yep.
Then you take over and you apply the stuff after a certain point. I'm not looking for a lifelong customer.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I tell that to everybody I have my consult with as well. I'm like, hey man, like that's why I personally got out of therapy, because I found that a lot of the therapists, you see it, like someone goes into therapy and they're there for like 10 years and the 10 years goes up and they're like, I'm kind of the same person. Like what was this last 10 years about? So I'm the same way. Like whenever I meet with somebody, I'm like, hey man, like I want you in and out as fast as possible so you can live your life and start having these amazing experiences and then eventually be able to give back to somebody else as well. So it's 100%, man. I'm right there with you. And big shout out to Trevor. So going off that, Trevor is a guy that just went through my coaching program. He's off weed now and he's living an awesome life. He's starting to date, just doing all these amazing things. And it was funny in our last session. He's like, yeah, man, I didn't want to like invest in this. Like I was just coming on because I offered like I think it was like a Christmas special, like a free call with me. And so he took advantage of that. And I'm like, hey man, like imagine like what you could get. Like, would you spend X amount of money to have weed never be a part of your life anymore? Because that's what he came to quit. It's like, yeah, of course I would. And I'm like, how much money could you be making if you weren't high all the time? And if you weren't spending the money you were earning on weed? He did the math. He started smiling because he knew he could be earning a little bit more. And he just said it like at our last session. He's like, hey man, I just want to say like this investment was one of the greatest things I've ever invested in, because I have a life now. I have hope. I have opportunity. I'm not addicted to weed anymore. It's amazing. And so it's like you, man, I'm the same. Like when I started dating, hired a coach, and I probably spent a little too much. And I took out a credit card, which wasn't a great idea, but he was a big name in the space. And I said, hey, I'm out of options. I need to do something. Thankfully, like guys like Joe and I, we're not going to make you take out a credit card to work with us.
I'll tell you to do that. I guarantee you use that fucking credit card to go take a chick to dinner who'll never talk to you again.
Yeah, right. Let's go forward to Chow.
Pay me a credit card.
On the card. Yeah, dude. Absolutely crazy. So, yeah, for the coaching anyway, for myself, you can book a 40-minute call for $20. That's my introductory offer. Like Joe said, I don't do it for free because when I have done that, people would schedule calls and just not show up. For the $20, hey, it's what, a couple grams, a trip to Carl's Jr. to invest in this 40-minute call. And yeah, if you don't show up, then hey, I get $20 and it's a win-win for both of us. And actually, it's interesting too, because I've had a few people in this last few months, they've booked full sessions, like $200 sessions, and they just didn't show up. It was just the weirdest thing. I'm just like, all right, like, yeah, thanks for the money. But so I'm with you. Yeah, it's a service. And as you begin your financial journey, wherever you are, you start to realize too that like my time's valuable and I've done all this work. I want to be able to invest in myself as well. So when we invest, when we charge, that means we get to give back to ourselves and be more available to do the work and have more energy and be more stress-free because we have our finances covered. So that's kind of just the philosophy I have around that.
Well, it's look, I put out plenty of content, videos, the shorts that you're doing now. Like I put a lot of information of value, extreme value out there for nothing, because I genuinely want to do that. And what I find is there's two types of people. You got givers, you got takers. Takers do nothing but take. So you consuming the content, and then now you want to start negotiating my value when it comes to doing a session to only further your cause and enhance your life exponentially. Now you want to start negotiating my value. Like, what is that? That tells me a lot about these people. It tells me I'm dealing with a taker. Like somebody is so caught up in such bad shape. And then when it comes to investing in themselves, they're like, well, wait a minute. Can we do it for less? Like, did you fucking ask that to this, when it came to you negotiate gasoline at the pump? And I'm like this with my contracting as well. It's like, no, my value is not to be negotiated. I've given you more than you're paying for already by being the one to offer this to you. It's not going to go any lower. It's not a negotiation. And if you all want to now try to take from me to further your cause, it tells me a lot of that I'm dealing with a selfish person. And so I work with people who are ready and willing and hungry for the result, for the change.
Yes.
Not with people who need to be validated for their bad decisions. I deal with people who really want this, who really want the change, who really want to experience change in their lives and never have to keep revisiting the same disaster over and over and over again.
Right.
That want to impart real change and quality change into their lives. Other than that, you're wasting your time, you're wasting mine.
They say it's for those who want it, not for those that need it. That's a recovery thing, but I think it's a great just overall message for anything. Many people need it, but it's those that want it, and those that do need it, those are the best because they're like so hungry. But wanting it's enough too. You're wanting to put in the work and see what can come out of it. I think that's fantastic. So, guys, I think this is a great part one to this. Next week, I think we'll do another session just like this, and we'll talk maybe some more things like fitness, nutrition, exercise, really kind of practical things that guys can start doing to help themselves do the work, right? And so this was a great talk, Joe. We dove into some deep stuff, some deep cultural stuff that I think the world's waking up to, and most of the world actually is like, what the fuck's going on anyway?
Maybe the next part we do on this, and the topic will be, what did you change and how does that affect? Like you changing as an individual, and how that affects and how that ripples back into the world.
I like that. I like that. You guys will see. It is a ripple. So, thank you everyone for tuning in today. It was so great to see a full house and you guys engaging and commenting and stuff. Thanks for, consolidating me. I was eating some delicious rice cakes throughout this stream. I was pretty hungry. Rice cakes, great thing to do to level up, right? Sugar-free, salt-free, just pure, just a little carb bonus for the day. And I'm super big into nutrition, guys. So whenever I coach people on addiction recovery, we always focus on nutrition because that is such a cheat code. If you can just be eating healthy, that's going to help your mood. That's going to help your energy levels, your clarity, your testosterone, if I already said it, motivation. And it just, it just keeps compounding on yourself. And it's all simply from, making the decision, the choice to start putting healthy things in your body. And it's going to give you an extra 20 years. So that's such a bonus. I want to live as long as I can. And I know that starts with what I put in my body, because I used to eat like total garbage, and in result, I felt like garbage. So we'll definitely have to do some more talks on nutrition and the importance of that, backed with exercise as well. Joe, where can people find you to connect? And
Instagram at Proud Masculine, my YouTube channel here, Proud Masculine, proudmasculine.com. Very easy. So easy.
Very easy. Myself, Sobriety University, also very easy. Come check out some addiction recovery related content. We talk about all kinds of stuff, weed mostly. And then also, if you guys have, some of you probably have heard about it already, we have our Men of Now group, which is a group of guys that are all leveling up, trying to be better, just trying to be better human beings. We just had a great talk in the community the other day about the 9 stages of ego development. Shout out to Andy, who's been on this channel before as well. I think in our quitting caffeine podcast, he's really big into that spirituality stuff, and a great resource to talk to on, finding freedom from ourselves, basically. So that group is down right there. Again, another monthly investment. Definitely worth it, though. We do a lot of inner work within the community, and then we do more podcast stuff like this, and everyone's welcome to join on. So we have about, tons of guys that are just like Joe here, just ready to do the work and show up when they say they're going to show up, all the above, which makes integrity build. And man, I could go on for hours, but there's the link, guys. Definitely check that out if you are looking to connect and start building that community and maybe getting out of that comfort zone a little bit. I know that was what it was for me. I had a lot of social anxiety, so I had to really work on starting to learn how to connect with people that were adults and that weren't just about partying or, the next little hit of dopamine, but that were actually, solid dudes. So big shout out again to Nicholas for getting to however long you got, man, or to your success. That's awesome, man. So with that, guys, we will talk to you in the next one, and have a good one. Adios.
Great show, man.